Agent Wild, were you asked to help analyze the data location, cell phone data location and cell phone of Zach Hughes?
Yes.
So how did you obtain the information? Well, what information did you obtain in your efforts to analyze them?
So from the solicitor's office, I obtained the phone records in electronic format, as well as the cell phone download was in an electronic format. And then with the download, I had to go in and pull out the location data so I could look at it and do what I do with it.
And as far as pulling it from the cell phone, what software do you rely on to help you read that information?
I used Cellbrite. I believe it's called Cellbrite Reader. It's just like it's another version of Cellbrite Physical Analyzer.
And what does Cellbrite Reader do?
So it grabs the raw data and it kind of processes it, or it does process it into a usable format. And again, it splits it out. So if we just have like a big bucket of data, it just spits it out into images, text, I just said images, pictures, videos, text messages, phone call logs, location data. It just kind of splits it out into all those categories. So I took the raw data, I put it in Cellbrite, and then I took the location data and then I exported that out because that's really what I was focusing on.
And then when you look at the exported location data in this particular case, do you just take it at its word, or do you do some underlying analysis to verify its authenticity?
Oh no, you can't just take it at its word. So the location data is sourced from multiple different places on the phone, depending on what kind of applications you have running or the user has running. So it kind of splits it out into different chunks, and there's different parts that are more reliable than other types. And so I try to focus on the most reliable data set that I can.
Now, in preparation for your testimony today, did you create a PowerPoint describing what you did?
Yes, sir.
With the cell phone data from Zach Hughes and actually the download of Zachary Hughes' cell phone?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm going to show you. State's Exhibit 174. And see if you recognize that.
Yes, sir. This is the thumb drive with my report on it.
The state moves 174 into evidence.
No objection. No objection. 174.
All right, well, we're going to throw this up on the screen right here. I'm even going to give you a laser pointer.
All right. Thank you, sir. Perfect.
If you'll just say next slide whenever you're ready. And,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hofer will click it for you, and
All right.
we can move on. So you prepared, is this the presentation that you prepared for this jury?
Yes, it is.
All right, and so what are you attempting to share with this, in general, with this jury?
In general, I'm going to share the general location through cell phone records and the cell phone download of the device associated with Mr. Hughes during certain time periods that are relevant to the case.
And again, so it's two pieces of data. It is Mr. Hughes' cell phone records
Yes, sir.
to his phone, as well as his actual phone that you received the data on.
Yes,
And do you distinguish between those two in this report?
I do.
All right. Now, is there anything interesting about the cell phone data that you received in this particular report?
The cell phone
How many
records.
cell phone records?
Yeah, so the cell phone records I received in this for this case, they're from Verizon. Usually Verizon provides a report that has the cell phone tower, so it tells me which tower is being used, and then it tells me which sector or side of the tower is being used. In this case, I think Verizon was transferring systems. They generated a different report, and that report only shows me the tower that's being used. So it's kind of demonstrated as a circle. And so when we get there, I'll explain what that means.
And before it would be almost a pie.
It would be like a wedge, yes, like a piece of pizza. All right, next one. All right, so slide 2, this is just the background of the case and my methodology. So, you know, the first paragraph describes that I was asked by the solicitor's office to help with this case in reference to an incident that occurred on October 13th, 2021. My methodology I've already talked about. I take the records that I get from the carrier, compare that to a list of cell phone towers here using the tower list that was in effect during 2021. And then I generate a map to display the general area where the devices were located. And then my conclusions are further down in the report. Next slide. This is an example of different cell phone towers. Most importantly is the one here on the top left. That's really most likely what you see almost anywhere in America. There's a couple important things about those. Those speaker-looking devices hanging on that tower, those are those antennas that transmit and receive a signal to and from a phone. A phone's very much like a car radio. As I drove here today, there's a tune to my favorite radio station, to my favorite frequency, and somewhere out in Greenville there's a tower. It emits a signal. My car radio receives that signal, and I can listen to my favorite station. The difference between my car radio and my cell phone is that with my cell phone, that transfer of information has to go in two directions. It has to come from the tower to my phone, but I also have to be able to send information from my phone back to the tower. And so those are the antennas that send and receive that information. And then there's just several other examples of antennas. There you have them on the outside of buildings. Everyone's favorite is always the pine tree. And they all essentially serve the same purpose, to transmit and receive signals. Next slide. Generally, what we figure out is when I look at the records, again, it usually gives me a sector, tells me which side of the tower is being used. And so by looking at the sector and the azimuth, or the direction that sector faces, I can usually demonstrate a wedge. Here in this case, again, I don't have the sector information, so really this doesn't really matter. Next slide. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so normally I would display the sector like I would here on the top, as kind of like a piece of pizza or like a pie wedge. But here, again, I don't have any sector information, so I'm demonstrating it as a circle. I'm not saying by any means that the phone has to be within that circle. I'm just saying that that tower is within that circle, and that tower emits a signal that goes in 360 degrees direction out from that tower. So the phone's gonna be somewhere between the tower being used and the next one in any direction around it, but closer to the one that's being used. Next slide. All right, so this is the legend for this case. So this just kind of gives you an overview of the area. And so I have a couple addresses here. The green pin up there represents 200 Tyndall Avenue in Greenville. So they're in the center of the map. The blue pin represents 799 Indian Flats Trail in Slater, Marietta, South Carolina. That's kind of up there near the South Carolina, North Carolina border. The red pin represents 122 Canebrake Drive in Greer. And then the orange pin represents 12 Blake Street in Greenville. Every one of those red dots you see on the map represent a Verizon cell phone tower. Next one. So this is showing the activity here on Verizon telephone number 864-894-0020. And it's showing the activity on June 30th, 2021 at 1:24 a.m., so 1:24 in the morning. And this is showing activity in and around in Greenville, South Carolina. Now the Verizon records here, I'm relying on the phone to be able to make and receive phone calls to obtain a record. Later on in the report, we'll have some data records that kind of help fill in some gaps.
Real quick, Your Honor, so, I'm sorry, Agent Smith, I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 1, and what is the date on State's Exhibit 1 up here?
Oh, the date on the top right there is Wednesday, June 2021. So June 30th, 2021.
All right, and so where was Zach Hughes' phone location on Wednesday, June 30th, 2021?
In the early morning, it was using a tower in the area of downtown Greenville. Next one. This slide, slide 9, it's showing the activity between July 4th, 2021 and July 8th, 2021. And again, the phone during that time, these are all phone calls, and the phone during that time is using towers in and around Knoxville, Tennessee.
All right, so I'm going to show you State's Exhibits 2. What is the date on State's Exhibit 2?
That is July 8th, 2021.
And State's Exhibit 158.
Is also July 8th, 2021.
And where are those mailed from?
Knoxville, Tennessee.
Both of those?
Yes, sir.
So, July 8th, 2021, Zach Hughes' phone was located in and around Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yes, sir. All right, so this next slide, this is showing activity on October 11th between 9:44 a.m. and 11:18 a.m. These are data activations, so they're not phone calls, they're not text messages, they are all the other stuff that's going on a phone in the background. And so sometimes they generate a record, they tell me the cell phone tower that was being used, how long that session is, and so I'm able to demonstrate it here. And so here, between 9:44 and 11:18, you can see that phone's using towers just to the northeast and to the south of the 799 Indian Flats Trail address.
And what is that date?
That is October 11th, 2021.
So would that be consistent with Zach Hughes' phone being near 700 Indian Flats Trail?
Yes. All right, and then this next slide. So now we're showing the location data from the physical download of the phone, and so this is showing that same day, October 11th. There was a location data point right there at Indian Flats Trail between 10:06 a.m. and 10:54 a.m.
And what date is that?
That's October 11th. So it's the same date as the previous slide showing the cell site activations.
So that's 2021.
Yes, sir. Next one. So now this is October 12th, 11:14 a.m. to 12:18 p.m. Again, these are data activations, showing activations right there near Greenville Technical College, basically southeast of the 200 Tyndall Avenue address.
And that is October 12th.
Yes, sir. Next one. These are the Cellbrite. These are the location data hits off of the physical phone. Again, 10:25 a.m. to 12:23 a.m. on October 12th. And there are some specific activations showing the device near the Tyndall Avenue, specifically between 10:47 a.m. and 12:01 p.m. And then there's two others, one to the south and one to the north. Next one. This is October 12th, 2021, between 12:31 and 1:21 p.m. The first one, 12:31 to 1:07 p.m., is consistent with being in the area of Tyndall Avenue. And then the second one at 1:18 to 1:21 is consistent with being at 12 Blake Street in Greenville.
Were you ever made aware of the significance of 12 Blake Street?
I did. I understand that's Mr. Mello's address. Next one. So now the next one is, this is showing, again, October 12th, between 1:59 p.m. and 2:34 p.m. So again, these are all data hits, and you can see the phone's using towers to the north of Greenville, not quite all the way to Marietta at that time. And then the next activation, voice call, is on October 14th, and the next activation is on October 14th.
Okay, say that again. So, in regards to voice data, you have it on October 12th.
I do.
And then when's the next voice call?
On October 14th.
And what is a voice call? What does that mean?
So that's an incoming or outgoing call.
Is that how you receive the location data?
It is. There is some data records on October 13th that I did not include in my presentation, but they are consistent with the activity we're getting ready to see. Next one. So this is October 12th, 6:56 p.m. till October 13th, 1:30 a.m. and showing the phone consistent with being in the area of Indian Flats Trail in Marietta.
So Zach Hughes' phone, this is October 12th.
This is.
All right. And what are the dates in which he is at the Indian Flats Trail?
So this is showing the evening of the 12th into the early morning of the 13th.
So what time is the last data point for on the 13th?
1:30 a.m.
That's 1:30 in the morning.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And then this is the next activation. This is the next activity on that download report, and it's showing 2:42 p.m. is the first hit, which is showing in the area of 200 Tyndall Avenue in Greenville.
All right. So the last data point that you just had up there was 1:30 in the morning of October 13th. And where was that located?
In Marietta.
Marietta. And the next data point that you have for Zach Hughes' phone or his cell phone records is at what time?
So for this phone, it's at 2:42. I did have some activations on the data side earlier, just earlier about I think they were 2:34, and it was north near Furman University.
And that 2:42, would that be consistent at being a little north of downtown Greenville at 2:42?
So 2:42 would be consistent with being south of downtown Greenville.
South of
Yeah, 2:34 would, I believe it was 2:34. It was north of downtown Greenville. That's correct.
Okay.
Next one. And then this is showing the activity 9:07 p.m. to 4:07 a.m. on the 14th. So this is the night of the 13th going into the next day. There's activity, let's see here, 9:07 is that box up in the middle between 9:07 and 9:32. Then 9:43 to 11:13, the phone is over there to the east side of the airport. And then 11:25 p.m. on the 13th to 4:07 a.m. on the 14th, the phone is consistent with being in the area of Tyndall Avenue.
So that's the night of October 13th, 2021.
Yes, sir. Into the morning of the 14th. And next. And then these are the voice calls on the 14th. So this is 12:57 a.m. to 1:02 a.m. And you can see the phone is there over on the east side of Greenville, kind of near the airport. And that's it.